Hey dudes and girls, we are on day 2 of stage 1 of the mobility band program. Stage 1 is the beginner stage, but I feel like it's still kicking our ass. Feels good. And I'm looking forward to today. It is another full body day and all the exercises are different from day 1. So this is gonna be pretty exciting. Are you ready?
I'm ready, I love full body.
Yeah. The first exercise we have is the deadlift. Now this is an amazing exercise to really work your hamstrings, your glutes, your lower back, and your grip too. The setup thankfully is pretty simple. What you're gonna be doing is stepping on the band and grabbing both ends of the loops as the handles, and then getting in the standard or conventional deadlift kind of position here where you're kind of more bowed forward, just like so, and then you're going to be pushing yourself up. Get a nice squeeze and then lowering yourself down. You kind of relax your muscles in the bottom position so you can start from that dead position and then explosively push yourself up. It's funny because the first few reps you're like, oh, this isn't too bad, but once you hit that 15 reps, muscles definitely start burning, start fatiguing, but that's what you want. You really want to feel that tension and that fatigue in the muscles at the end of your repetitions. So there you go, first exercise, the deadlift. An amazing one. And if you're ever curious about any of these kind of exercises or how we do them, thankfully in the program, we included all the exercise tutorials. So that way, if you ever need a little bit of a refresher on not only how to do the exercise, but what the exercise works, it's all in the back of the mobility program, baby. Yeah. Now the next exercise is really gonna be focusing on the back because we're gonna be doing some pull downs. So what we're gonna be doing is tying the band above and you're just be grasping the band. Now, what you have to keep in mind is where you grasp the band is gonna really dictate the resistance that is gonna be placed on the exercise. Obviously, the higher you place your grip, the more resistance because the band has to stretch more to bring it down into that bottom position there. And of course, if you have a lower grip, then you'll easily be able to pull it down without a lot of resistance there. So again, your hand grip will dictate how much resistance or how hard or difficult the exercise will be. So it might take a little time to gauge that, but thankfully it's very easy. Just adjust your grip and you're good to go. What you really want to focus on is pulling the elbows down as far as you can, and you're gonna be depressing your shoulders as well. Slight arch in the lower back to really feel those lats engage. Of course, the rear delts and biceps are gonna be a secondary muscle group involved, but primarily you really wanna feel those lats engage throughout the full exercise and then bring it up to the top position to get a nice stretch in there and then rinse and repeat. And then there you go, it's the pull downs, baby. Hell yeah. Push-ups can be difficult on their own, but of course when you add extra resistance in the form of the band, they can be even more difficult. It takes some getting used to, obviously, having a band like that. You want it in the proper positioning. I like to wrap it around my palms there, kind of the thick portion of your hand, and then of course it goes over your upper to middle back area, so that way it's nice and secure, and once you get in that push-up position, it won't fall forward or back and out of place. But man, those are tough, of course, going down to the bottom position. It feels a little light, but as you push more and more up to the top, it gets more and more difficult. So it's a little deceiving at first because you might not think it'll be too difficult, but once you get to the top portion, it's very difficult, especially when you're trying to bust out 15 repetitions. Of course, if you can't do any push-ups, if you have a difficult time doing push-ups, feel free to do regular push-ups. You don't have to do them banded, but the goal is to eventually work up into a resistance like the banded push-ups.
It's very hard. I already struggle with regular push-ups, so these are just a serious step up.
Yeah, they definitely are. But actually Michaela uses the bands in the opposite direction, which can help quite a bit with the assisted push-ups, where you actually tie the band above something, overhead, just like so. And then you wrap it around your sternum area, and there you go. Now you're doing assisted push-ups. So of course it lessens the resistance, but again, that's an amazing tool to have. The bands, the mobility bands, to make sure you're always pushing yourself in the right direction. And the assisted push-ups with the band can be an amazing tool to help you perform more push-ups to build strength or perform your first push-up if you can't do them yet. And we've done some videos in the past about push-ups to not only help build strength in them, but things to avoid as well. So, the push-up, it's a good one. Chest is still burning from those push-ups. Wow, those ones are awesome. But it's time to do some single arm shoulder presses. Now this is a unilateral exercise, meaning like the name explains, we're only using one arm at a time. And then we're gonna be going from one side, finishing the 15 repetitions, and then moving on to the next side, just like so. And well, ceiling's a little low. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of a variation of the standing single arm shoulder press, and we're gonna do some kneeling ones. So this one's pretty easy. You're basically just getting on your knees, and you're gonna be anchoring the band with one knee here. And then you're going to be grabbing the other side or the other loop end with your hand, and you're gonna be pressing straight up. Now, one thing you have to consider when doing this variation, the kneeling, is in the standing position, this band would be more than enough resistance for me. But now in the kneeling position, the band is not stretching out nearly as much as in the standing position. So the resistance isn't gonna be enough for me. So I'm gonna have to go up a little bit and grab a bigger band. So that way I'll have enough resistance to be able to really test those muscles for those 15 repetitions. Feeling a little wobbly at that top position. So it provides a lot of instability, these bands, so you're really gonna have to concentrate on contracting those muscles, especially the top position, to really stabilize that when you're at the top there, because it's gonna wanna kinda like bring you all over the place, either forward, back, side to side. So really concentrate on getting that mind-muscle connection to make sure you're really stable in all these movements.
Speaking of stability, I notice sometimes if I'm going a little too fast, then that's what really causes me to feel unstable. So all I do is slow down the tempo slightly, and automatically I feel that stability.
Oh yeah, shoulders are done. Now it's time for some shrugs. Now with the shoulders, the trapezius muscles are helping out because when you're pressing the shoulders upwards, you're gonna have some slight shoulder elevation, which the traps help do. But now we're gonna be isolating the trapezius muscles by strictly doing shoulder elevations there, by shrugging the shoulders towards the ears. Thankfully, the setup with this one is gonna be simple. You're just stepping on the band on a double anchor, much like you did with the deadlift, and you're grabbing both ends, both loop ends of the band, and you're gonna stand up with it, and then just shrug your shoulders to your ears and really get that good contraction and squeeze at the top.
I swear it's impossible to not contort your face in that way when you're doing these. I don't know why.
It's the shrugs face. Everyone has it. Trust me, it's a well-known phenomenon that happens whenever you do shrugs. You can't avoid it. No one can. So don't worry if you have that shrug face. It's all good. Everyone's done it. It's kind of like shitting. Everyone shits.
That's a good one. That's
Yep.
a good example.
Don't worry. Shouldn't be ashamed. And everybody's shit stinks. We are on to the last exercise, and it's gonna be abdominals. Now we're gonna do some side bends, which is primarily focusing on your obliques. Now the setup with this one is gonna be a little bit different. What you're gonna wanna do is loop one end of the band around 1 foot, and you're going to step on that, and then you're going to take your other foot and step on both sides of the band and use the other end of the loop end as a handle here. Now the width of your stance is really gonna dictate how difficult this movement's gonna be. Obviously, the wider the stance, the more resistance can be placed on the band. So just keep that in mind when you do this exercise. So I have a pretty wide stance, so you're gonna have a little bit more resistance in there, and you're going to be bending to one side and then pulling back to center line there. So you're gonna be bending to one side and pulling back. Now, one thing you have to remember also in this exercise is that the side that you're holding the band with is not necessarily going through much contraction. It's going to be the opposite side, so your opposite oblique. So if you're holding the band or the resistance with your right hand, it's gonna be your left oblique that is gonna be controlling the movement. So it's eccentrically moving yourself into the bent position, and then it's gonna be concentrically contracting to bring yourself to that top straight center line position there. So always keep that in mind and really be conscious of contracting the right oblique to make sure you're stable and you're getting the right movement in there. All right, just wrapped up day 2 of stage 1, the beginner stage. And this one feels like we definitely need the beginner stage because it's gonna take some time to ramp up to more difficult stages, and that's why this one pays off so much. But day number 3 is actually the same as day number 1, so we won't be shooting a video on that because basically follow along what we did in the first video. So until next time, stay buff. Yeah.